This is Black Shade Floral 2265 coming at you today with a new vlog. So I'm out here sitting in my yard, and I felt like it'd be better, and the air is better out here for me to be able to do a vlog for you and with you. Those are the Christmas lights there. And yeah, so it's nice and breezy right now, so let me just get started for you. So my topic of discussion for this vlog is going to be being a Black Neo-Emocore woman. 3 eclipses I discuss. So let me just get right on ahead and get started for you. Thanks. I grew up during high school an uninvited young potential, albeit underestablished. It was hard for me because people didn't take to me, flocking to me for friendships. A lot of them were whites, established by their parents' successes, and what it's afforded them, despite the numerous unnamed businesses, and establishing staples, and its various and numerous regarded furnishings, and what it's afforded them. They, for the most part, stuck by their keep. Other kids of color, young persons, were not esteemably welcomed into their worthiest groups. At least, not to the greater span of students who were whites and attended the school body. But I honestly admit that they did commingle besides the classroom and assigned seats, if I could still remember correctly. Outside of the classroom, ethnically, students rather stuck by themselves or associated with each other, diversively as biracially in very small numbers. I believe the percentile statistic was relatively small, since I can only recall a few faces of students who did this. They were boys and girls of color. A lot of the Hispanics commingled with whites, the boys especially. The girls, I noticed, were much better at odds because I was a fellow peer amongst them who took notice. My school peers were young ladies of color, but strangely, I couldn't understand why I had such trouble grouping with them. As far back as grade school, all I ever dreamt about was friend grouping with willing-to-know students. But human prejudices still lurked. And as much as whites liked to express their ableness to accept others who racially differ to them, they will always make the intensively a special exception for same race peers into their group fold, and for grouping. And at times, there are too many peers of the same race to invite a person of color amongst it, for fear of social discomfort or questions of fallouts and inequality, which upsets the overall agreeableness of an ongoing group and or clique. Personally, I prefer the word label group than the label social clique. Whites and Caucasians are romanticists within their groups innermostly, and do not share such interest with those outside of their racially common groups of peered foes. One of the main interests that I found myself quite readily drawn to is the Neo-Emocore subculture. I heard about the culture mentioned online with its numerous entailing articles on the subject matter. But I do remember that the culture wasn't something I heard of mentioned in school by popular white peers and their groups. It was much after high school I had researched and learned of it, very much into the days of MySpace. Now I wonder if it was by some ethnically challenged conspiracy of some sort, to keep the unwanteds, such as ethnic persons of color, people who were debilitatingly fat and unsightly to group with, and personably abnormal, socially underdeveloped persons who were socially awkward or inept and such, and lacked the disposition of others reciprocating to them because they were temperamentally as well as too culturally different for them, such as language barriered Haitians and or Hispanics, and such various ethnically challenged reasonings. But from what I've seen, they quite in fact do incorporate such people of sorts. This, as well as the abnormal types I've mentioned, are the very sort of people who establish the subculture that Emocore is. Emocore itself, without the annotation of Neo, was based originally and most establishably in music lyrics as well as named bands. Banded groups that establish and make music. Besides romanticism, some of the ongoing concerns of parents, family, and school officials and adults is how Emocore embraces emotion over reason. Emo, often seen as a subculture, also signifies a specific relationship between fans and artists. Sorry, I just had to step inside and change my clothes. It was getting loud outside, and there were some cars that are pretty loud in the neighborhood, so I came inside so that I could just finish up here. So thanks for your patience and for sticking around. Thank you. Emo, often seen as a subculture, also signifies a specific relationship between fans and artists and certain aspects of culture, fashion, and behavior. https://en-m wikipedia.org-wiki. Emotists who embrace the core are also nationalists, like the unofficial peoples of liberalism, who represent the status of equal rights and social freedoms, advocating the principles of traditional and as well as conventional liberties. Those are its highlights, but its most imposing direction is its anti-conformity. Being a young and immature noble, my puerile admiration lacked some noble sense, if you know what I mean. I didn't heed the prejudice inclinations of it, or how anti-friendship it tended to be, to blacks and people of the ethnic like. To girls and guys who took into it, they fed into the appeal to the darkness of being an emo and other key detailed parts of it, like sadness, melancholy, and self-solitude. If anything, it drew people and their curiosity about you, to take notice of you enough, to want to know who you are, as well as reveal your physically appealing characteristics for them to take notice of you. But this works mainly in white culture, where it has wanted to belong. But at the time, I also researched social labels to socially identify by. Neo-soul music is a genre that I researched and heard of from the supernatural fiction writer of L.A. Banks, who is black and also writes vamp and were fiction with other writers of her like. There is LKH, otherwise known as Laurel K. Hamilton, a Patricia Briggs, who is a were fiction supernatural writer that I've gone and purchased off of Amazon and familiarized myself with, along with some others. In L.A. Banks's novel, her character Damali Richards is a vampire hunter as well as a recording artist to her story. Her character, as well as my research on the internet, was what inspired me to go look up neo-soul. That at beats melancholy and non-conformism, which can be very unaccommodating and self-absorbed, does seem to celebrate individualism, but favors the white personable for its subculture. So I took the word neo from soul and have replaced it with emocore, just for some effect, hence the word Neo-Emocore. Neo translates to meaning new, recent, or latest, and is a compound word annotate. And I admit that Neo-Emocore sounds much better, in my opinion, than just plainly emocore. With its appeal to dark and obscure settings, like the love of nights, evenings, and emotional phases, like sadness, solitude, and parts of unreasoned emotional identity. For me, I parlay relatively my appeal to dark for Neo-Emocore to my struggles and ethnic racial obscurity that persons of color, face in present times. In this present age, colored peoples have been affected by the contact that contemporary and modern social strides between race persons of color culture and race persons of white culture have brought into the joint communal fold, albeit quieter these accomplished days. American and European culture is quite in fact inspired by fairer skin and Nord culture, quite predominantly, which at times tends to demoralize people of color in unaccomplishment to their culture. The color culture is usually appreciated by young persons who recall the history and apply it to their life's direction and life's work in small, accommodating ways, which is the respective way to embrace and contribute it. Young colored upstarts in school, in college, or in the workplace, whether accommodatingly accepting family for who they are, as well as peered friends in spite of their being socially and characteristically different, work or school peers, because you're not as socially adept or quick-witted as they. It is good to self-embrace your color culture, even if it's not the way you ideally wanted it, hoped for, or pictured it. Just be aware of the fact that it is definitively because some underlying factor has gone under-identified or unacknowledged linguistically or art liberally. It may be your shortcoming, studiously despite language barriers, as well as comprehensive ones. But I suggest that you incorporate educative tools to help boost your standing, which can logically cohere your social consistence. So rather than give into the drawn-out, tattered, same old cry about Emocore's custom and unaccommodating nonconformism with its utter dislike of people and humans, called misanthropy, which simply defines as the like of peoples and or humankind, which defines my point of emo being anti-conformism and being prejudiced and non-accommodating. I think neo-soul or neo-emocore is the next step to the old, besides its emotionally debilitating ways of solid emocorism, since neo stands for a better definition of annotations such as neonate, -tenny, and, new and revived. https://dictionary.com. So, for some short advice, for those who are language barrier conflicted or are ethnic culture persons who need that social boost to label and define their unacknowledged social identity, or want to redirect their behavioral shortcomings for some good form and personal direction, I suggest that one of the simplest steps to initiating your life to neo-emocorism is listening to some mixed music. Research what's out there according to what you know for music so far. Even if it's pop, rap, or R&B you only know. Look up the genre music with keywords like house music and remix, a parentheses ES, to get a start. Research house music and R&B to see what sorts of results you get, and research the following. My best bet is looking up house from the early 90s for a good start with a fair shake. So type in house music 90s apostrophe S for some results from your search engine, and listen to the song titles on YouTube for some quality comment time, and familiarize yourself with it, memorizing for yourself the titles. And pretty soon you will get somewhere with it. With Neo-Emocore, music is the place to start to get somewhere. Also, research Emocore so that you can grasp what you like about it or from it to establish yourself. So please like, comment, subscribe, and keep tuning in. Bye-bye. And also, please share. It'll get the word around. And thanks. I'm counting on you. Thanks.